I was invited to go with the Air Force to Afghanistan, and everything on my trip went wrong, and it profoundly changed my view on trust and cooperation and how the world works.
What year was this?
And it was the impetus for Leaders Eat Last.
Okay.
2011.
Okay.
Was when I went to Afghanistan.
So you were finding some issues where your celebrity brought some wrong people into your life, and then you spent time with the military where you saw people with real core values and brotherhood. And what happened in Afghanistan?
So I didn't tell my family that I was going because I didn't want them to worry. I told them it would be out of touch. I told them it would be on a bunch of planes, all true. Told them it would be in Germany, true. I just didn't tell them I was going to Afghanistan. We landed in Afghanistan in the middle of the night. We'd been on the ground. It was me and 2 escorts. I had 2 officers who flew with me. We landed in the middle of the night, and the big side door in our KC-135 was open, but we hadn't got off the plane yet. Like I said, we'd only been on the ground for 10 minutes. And the base came under a rocket attack. We had 3 rockets hit 100 yards off our nose. And for anyone who's ever been in a war zone will know, you have all the feelings you're supposed to have, but you probably don't have them at the same time. So I was strangely relaxed when it happened. The panic came later, right? We eventually given the all clear, and we got off the plane. And the goal was to try and get out on an airdrop mission while we were out there, which are not regularly scheduled. So we found one that was leaving first thing in the morning. And so we got about 3.5 hours of sleep and woke up at the crack of dawn and went for this airdrop mission, which was amazing. Got on this big C-17, flew out about an hour and a half, 2 hours, dropped down to 2,000 feet. The back door opens, and we sat there when all this cargo slide out the back and parachute down to supply an Army forward operating base. Amazing experience, amazing experience. Flew back to base, and now the goal was to get out of Dodge, to go back home, right? So we look for a flight that we can jump on, and it's up to the discretion of the pilots, and things aren't regularly scheduled. And we found an outbound aeromedical evacuation, so taking wounded soldiers, Marines out of theater.
Yeah.
And they told us we could join them, and they told us to wait. We waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and finally all clear. And we're sitting on the plane, we're all strapped in. And literally 5 minutes before we're about to leave, they tell us we have to be bumped because they need more room for stretchers. And if there's ever a good reason to get bumped, that's the one. Yeah. So then we went to look for another flight. And that's when we found out that there won't be any other flights going in our direction until Tuesday, and it's only Saturday. And there's no guarantee that we're going to get on that flight. So I'm now stuck in Afghanistan for at least 4 days, and no way to reach my family and say that I'm going to arrive home 4 days after I told them I was going to get home. They just won't hear from me. It's not like I can call them and be like, hey, I'm going to be late. I'm in Afghanistan, you know? And I remember every fiber of my being sinking. I just remember just all the energies leaving my body. I remember the feeling distinctly. I remember where I was standing. The whole picture is clear. And I remember I became preoccupied with one thing and one thing only: my happiness, my success, not my success, my safety, and my comfort, right? That's all I cared about. And I remember there was a public affairs officer who said, you know, I can get you on a plane to Kyrgyzstan, but you don't have the right visa. To which I said, you get me on that plane. Like, I don't talk to people that way. And I could see myself becoming this person that I don't know.
Self-preservation.
Right. And I realized, even back then, even at the time, that I was becoming that boss that we've all had, that only cares about their success, their promotions, their advancement, and doesn't care who has to twist themselves in knots to get them what they want. That was me. I didn't care who had to go out of their way or twist themselves in knots to get me what I wanted: my safety, my comfort, my happiness. So we went back to our housing. I was exhausted, obviously. We hadn't slept much in a few days. And I lay down in my bed and closed my eyes. I couldn't sleep because my mind was racing. One of the guys said, I'm going to see if I can find us another flight, and he left. The other guy said, well, I'm going to go to the gym, and he left. And he thought I was asleep, so he turned out the lights, and I lay there in the dark. And I remember the stress. I remember the panic. I remember the paranoia. I remember regretting saying yes. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go home. I wish I'd never said yes. And I realized that I was living the equivalent of an unfulfilled life, compressed and exaggerated, all of the feelings exaggerated into this 24-hour period, where, and we do this in our work lives, where we mistake moments of happiness for fulfillment. So I had an amazing day. I saw things that most people will never get to see, and it was incredible. I didn't want to wake up and do it again. And if you think about at work, you know, we have the thrills of hitting the goals, making the bonus, getting the promotion, winning the client. It's all fantastic. Getting rich, I mean, whatever it is, it's fantastic. But do you want to wake up and do it again and again? Do you truly feel fulfilled? Those feelings are fleeting. They happen, they're amazing, and then they go away. And so we think falsely that happiness comes from trying to repeat those short-term thrills over and over again, but it never really feels fulfilling. And so this is what I had done. I had confused happiness with fulfillment. I confused the fleeting thrills with deep joy. And here I am stuck in this 24-hour compressed period, and I remember the paranoia. I was convinced that there was going to be another rocket attack, and I was convinced it was going to land on me. I was convinced that my parents would find out that I was in a war zone when an Air Force officer went and knocked on my parents' door. I was convinced of it. And so I'm trying to solve my problem. I'm lying in bed, trying to figure it out, make this horrible feeling go away. I'm in the purpose business, so I know that when you have a sense of purpose, it gives you this calm. And so I'm like, and I didn't have a purpose. I was just there as an observer. So I tried to invent one. I'm like, you're here to tell their story and come back and share what you learned. And it made me feel good for like a minute, 5 minutes. And this happens in companies as well. They try and articulate some nonsense vision or mission or purpose or why, whatever they want to call it. And it doesn't work. It lasts for a couple weeks. It doesn't really inspire. It's inspiring in the meeting, and that's it. That's what I was going through. And so I lay there, tried every trick I had, and I gave up. I gave up. I ran out of options, and I ran out of choices. And resigned myself to the fact that I was stuck. And so I figured that if I was going to get stuck, I might as well make myself useful, because I got 4 days of nothing to do. So I decided I would volunteer. I decided that I would offer to speak wherever and whenever they wanted me to. I decided that I'd met some amazing people, that I would volunteer to help them. I would sweep floors. I would carry boxes. I didn't care how menial the labor was, as long as I could be of use, as long as I could serve those who were serving others. Upon making that decision, this overwhelming calm came over me. The fear went away. The paranoia was gone. Instantly, I even had a sense of excitement. I was actually excited to serve those who served others. I felt amazing. And this is what I learned. I learned that a true sense of purpose doesn't come from what we can do to get. It comes from what we can do for others. That a true sense of purpose is the opportunity to serve those who serve others, and the calm and confidence and courage that it takes to live a life or build a business comes when we devote ourselves not to our own success, but to the success of others.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.